the long weekend, we identified 1,085 new cases of COVID-19 on Friday, 1,039 on Saturday, 628 on Sunday, and another 606 cases on Monday. Our positivity rate ranged from 7.9 to 9.2% over the weekend, and yesterday was about 8.3%. There are currently active alerts or outbreaks in 464 schools. Of these, 13 schools are on outbreak. We have worked throughout the course of the pandemic to try to balance the direct COVID impacts with indirect impacts, and knowing that there are certain significant life events that people, for example, someone who's giving birth, is needing support through. We had worked to try to figure out what a safe way could be with certain provisions, certain restrictions, and certain extra requirements that an individual would have to follow in order to be able to be present to support someone who was giving birth. Of course, given our current situation, we are looking at that again to determine if that's something that's still appropriate. And so that's something under review right now. We wanted to make sure again that we're trying to weigh all of the different components of, again, both direct and indirect impacts, but that was something that was put into place to facilitate support to someone in a significant moment in their life. It was not a routine, something that would be routinely offered, but in a particular circumstance, it could be offered as long as an individual agreed to use additional measures and precautions to protect those around them.
We have not defined a particular criteria to end the program. I fully expect that we will have it in place through at least the first quarter of next year of 2022, because we are headed into an uncertain period. Even if we continue to see downward momentum in the case numbers and hospitalization numbers, and even if we exit this fourth wave through the month of October, we will have to be on our guard as we go into colder weather, when people spend more time indoors. We will head into seasonal headwinds in terms of viral spread, and we will also maybe experiencing waning protection, both from naturally acquired immunity through prior infection and potentially through vaccines as well. The jury is still out on exactly when, but we do know that both of those kinds of immunity, from prior infection and from vaccines, can wane over time. So between weather, seasonal patterns, more indoor activity, and the potential for waning protection, we don't want to let down our guard, let's say in November, if we get out of this fourth wave, only to potentially face a Christmas spike or a winter spike. So I think we've just adopted the program. It seems to be working well. The businesses with whom I've spoken generally seem happy with it. Many of them say this is exactly what they wanted, and they thank us for having put it in place. I want to thank the vast majority of Albertans for cooperating with the program. It seems to have had at least some effect in helping to increase vaccination rates and therefore probably reducing case numbers and hospitalizations. So we think the program is working well. It will be in place at least until the first quarter of next year. We'll assess it then based on COVID trends here and around the world.
Thanks, Premier. I'm sorry, Andrew, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Thank you. We've seen in other jurisdictions, notably Israel, that at a certain point, 2-shot is not enough to be classed as fully vaccinated for their vaccine passport. I know Alberta has expanded the eligibility for booster shots. Is this a possibility that to be considered fully vaccinated for accessing all of these things under the restrictions exemption program, there could be a point at which 2 shots is not enough?
That's not where we're at now. So far, we continue to see very strong protection from the second shot, the 2-dose regime that we've maintained for the broad population. And as you know, 90% of our ICU patients with COVID are unvaccinated. So that's just a reflection of just how strong the vaccines have been here. But we will closely monitor the data. You've mentioned Israel. We have the advantage, we and countries around the world, of closely watching the Israeli experience to study the impact of their widespread application of booster shots to the population. So we'll be closely watching all of those trends. I won't rule out the possibility that if we find, over the winter, a significant decline in the protective effect of the vaccines, that we may very well receive advice from our advisory committee on immunization, as well as the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, for broader application of booster shots. So we'll cross that bridge if and when we come to it. I wouldn't rule that out, but it's not something that is under current consideration.
The pressures on our hospitals ease ever so slightly. In recent days, our ICUs have dipped below 80% occupancy when we include the surge bed numbers. And as of this morning, it was at 78%. But as noted before, this equates to 172% capacity if we don't include the 201 surge beds that we have created. So needless to say, the situation still remains extremely serious. The number of Albertans needing ICU care has fallen by a small amount in the past week, but it's still too early to suggest that this is a trend. But it's a good sign, and it's a faint silver lining to what has been a very difficult period for our healthcare system.